What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jared Barnes Show. I am your host, Jared Barnes. Today, we are back in my dorm room. Nate is here. Micah is here. We are excited to get this. I don't know if I'd call it a new season, but this new era in the show kicked off where it's at this point just three of us. We thought there was going to be a fourth. His knee exploded over the break. We miss you, Cameron. We wish you would have been here, but he will not be joining us on the podcast. Maybe next fall he'll be joining us for the NFL season. I haven't spoken to him. Not going to hold that to him. That's up to him if he wants to do it, if he's back. But right now it's going to be just us three. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time. There's going to be a little differences in the show, more question and conversation based. Some of the graphics might look a little different, might be better for the viewer. So we just hope you enjoy it. We got some things coming on social media in the next couple of weeks too. We're going to get a little more active there on Instagram, TikTok, probably not Twitter, but if you want to follow us on all of those platforms, it is at the Jared Barnes Show. Make sure to subscribe on the YouTube to stay up to date with everything, and make sure to unsubscribe and resubscribe because it kind of helps us as well. So if you want to do that, that'd be even better. But I won't waste any more time talking about stuff that isn't sports. Let's hop right into the divisional weekend recap. First game that was on the slate was Jaguars and Chiefs. And I think a lot of people thought this game was going to be a blowout because I think everyone just assumed that the Chiefs were going to run away with it. And Jacksonville season was a fun story, but was definitely coming to an end. It was closer than people thought. Mahomes did get banged up. I mean, Travis Kelce pretty much proved why he's the most impactful and important player every time he touches the football field. He might be the greatest tight end of all time at this point. It's tough to, it's a tough argument because you got Gronk, you got Gonzalez, you got Shannon Sharp, you got others. And Kelce has just proven, specifically when the moments are the brightest, just how dominant of a force he can be. I mean, in this game, he had 14 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. His playoff stats are ridiculous. It feels like in the playoffs, he's guaranteed to get 75 yards. He's guaranteed to get 6 to 7 catches in a game, and he's guaranteed to get you a touchdown. Game in and game out, every playoff game, you can depend on him. Now, the Jaguars, what a fun season, 9-8, won their division, but could not hang with the Chiefs in this game. I listened to it on the radio because I was driving that Saturday. It was a fun game to listen to because it was much closer than I expected. But again, Chiefs moving on. Anybody have thoughts on that game?
Yeah, no, I'm very excited for the Jaguars' future. They have a great young quarterback, franchise quarterback. They have great players everywhere. I think Christian Kirk's probably still a little bit overpaid, but other than that, you know, they have a great young future. It's just that you ran into Patrick Mahomes, who's probably one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, and then probably like third on that list is one-legged Patrick Mahomes. Probably third on the list is best quarterbacks in the NFL. So, you ran into that and Travis Kelce. So, it's a great season. You guys made great improvement. Number one overall pick to winning your division, making it to the divisional round. Congrats to you guys. And you guys have a great future ahead. So I'm very excited to see what the Jaguars are going to be able to do in these coming years.
Yeah, I think people forget, they had back-to-back number one overall picks. They went Trevor Lawrence and then Trayvon Walker 1-1, 2 years in a row. Trevor's first year really doesn't count as an NFL year, even though it does according to the NFL because he had Urban Meyer as his head coach, and we all know what a dumpster fire coach that guy is. College coaches have proven that they don't really work in the NFL. Urban didn't get a college job yet either, which I thought was intriguing. And he's never obviously going to be up for another NFL job, but Doug Peterson did a fantastic job. In my opinion, Doug Peterson is coach of the year, even though there is another coach in the NFL. Their season just ended. He could also be up for coach of the year because of how quickly he turned his franchise around. And that is Brian Daboll and the Giants. But they stood no chance versus the Eagles. They gave the Eagles no competition in that game. It was 28-0 at halftime. And then the Giants didn't score a single point to the third quarter. It was 38-7 by the end of the game. I mean, the game was locked up seemingly from the start. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the TCU Georgia national championship, but it felt like it could get out of hand just like that game did. And luckily, the Eagles kind of pretty much played pretty conservative in the second half. It was definitely a boring game. I mean, that's the game that actually put me to sleep. I arrived at a hotel on my drive back to school and stayed the night there and literally could not stay awake because I was partially watching that game because of how boring that second half was. But Giants had a fantastic season. Like, not like the Eagles had. The Eagles, one of the best teams in the NFL, obviously proving so because they're in the conference championship. But Giants going from what they were with Joe Judge to 9-7 and seeing the improvement in Daniel Jones, who is set to be a free agent, wondering how much they're going to have to pay him to keep him around because, yeah, he was decent, but is there a better quarterback out there? Could they get Derek Carr? Maybe. Is he better than Daniel Jones at this point? I don't know if his cap hit is worth it. So if I was the Giants, I'd stick with Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley also set to be a free agent. How much of the success of the Giants was based on Saquon Barkley? I mean, they have no wide receivers either. I mean, they're one of their best wide receivers of the entire season was Isaiah Hodgins, and nobody knew who he was until December. So Giants had a pretty good year. They now know what they have to do to improve because they got to play their division rival 3 games this year, and they see what their division rival did to get to the point they got to. Should they follow the same blueprint, theirs is going to be a little different because they're going to have to pay a lot of guys, and they don't have a lot of cap to do it. But hopefully their receivers can turn it around. Hopefully they can find a couple solid steals at receiver. Kayvon Thibodeau, getting him where they got him in the draft at like 5 or 6, what a pickup because he completely transformed that defense. Hopefully they don't lose their offensive coordinator because it does seem like the Giants offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, is probably going to end up with a head coaching job. And Wink Martindale could also like start to get looks for head coach, which is both their offensive and defensive coordinators. And that would be kind of detrimental to a team that's just starting to round the corner. But I was excited for the Giants. Sad their season ended in such a tragic loss, but the Eagles are a buzzsaw. They were going to do that to anybody they played. Anybody have thoughts on that game? No thoughts? All right, we'll move on. You got thoughts? No? All right. Yeah, it was. I mean, there was no thought. I mean, it's boring. It was a boring game. So
The only thing that like even got me to watch the third quarter was I was just hoping for a Trevor Lawrence comeback. That was it. That was the only thing. I mean, I was like, maybe they could pull something off. Maybe they can, get a good comeback. The fourth quarter rolled around. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to watch this anymore. It was pathetic.
they did not have that same magic that the Jaguars had the week prior. So that being said, moving on to a game that I think everybody thought was going to be the best game of the weekend, it turned out to be pretty much just another utter domination, and that was the Bengals beating the Bills. I mean, it was Damar Hamlin's return to Buffalo, whether that was Damar Hamlin in the booth or not. Some people don't think it was. And I'll just say this. If you don't think that was Damar Hamlin in that booth, if you don't think that was Damar Hamlin in that cart, and you think the NFL's covering up, because this is what I saw a lot on TikTok. A lot of people think that Damar Hamlin actually died and they never brought him back to life. And this is all a fugazi, and they're pretending like Damar Hamlin came back to life. No, you're retarded. Hate to sound dumb, but like that's a stupid take. If you actually think that, you're stupid. I'm just saying. You might actually have a very lower IQ than Forrest Gump if you think Damar Hamlin actually died and they have a body double in his place at that game. Nate, you're about to say something. I'm sure you would love to add to that conversation, but
Connect me with who you got. Who Connect me with your supplier because I mean you got some really good stuff if you really think that. And so connect me with Heisenberg, connect me with Tuco. I don't care who it is, but just connect me with that guy because it looks like he's selling you some pretty good stuff.
exactly. Like if you actually think that, like I've seen, and it's gaining steam on the internet. Like people are like really believing it, and it's like, stop. It's like it makes no sense why you'd believe that. But moving on from that, let's just talk about the game. lean out of how dumb people are because people are stupid, but like go touch some grass outside. Get with the program. Get with life.
There ain't no grass in Buffalo though. I mean,
That is true. That is true. It's not just Buffalo people though. It's a lot of I think it's a lot of kids on TikTok that believe it, but the Bengals dominated this game. Obviously, to Damar Hamlin, the emotional ride that was. It's not over for the Bills. Like Damar Hamlin still got a chance to return and things like that, but the emotional ride of the season that was the Bills, they had a lot happen. I mean, on and off the field, not a lot getting talked about. Dawson Knox losing his brother at the beginning of the season. I know that affected some guys on the team, specifically Dawson himself. And then Damar Hamlin towards the end of the season, and then the NFL kind of, telling the Bills they had to sell tickets to a possible championship game was just enough motivation for Joe Burrow and the Bengals to come out there and be like, yep, no, not a neutral site game. That thing will be played at Kansas City. No need to worry. And domination from the jump. I mean, it was 14-0 at one point. The game was boring. I thought there for a little bit we'd see a comeback, and then the Bills just could never string anything together on offense. And it's led people to some questions on whether the Bills will ever win a championship, because this was really the year that they had it all lined up. People talking about, a lot of Bills fans on Twitter were talking about firing Coach McDermott. Valid, but no, he's a good coach. In my opinion, he's probably a top 7 coach in the league. I would say he's a better coach than the coach that won the game, but that coach has Joe Burrow, and he's built different. The weapons on that offense, and the fact that they have the guy at quarterback. He's not even Burrow's not even the most talented quarterback in the league, but he's the most. It's tough to explain what he is, but he is the most of whatever he is.
he's cold.
He is. He's different. Mahomes don't have that level of swag that Burrow has. He does not bring that Mahomes is good, but he don't bring the same thing.
You can't have that amount of swag with that kind of voice. Like Kermit. I'm sorry, Kermit. You're not swaggy like that. So
No, and it's about time for Burrow to start maybe getting some commercials too. Let's put him on TV a little more. I mean, but either way, it wasn't a fun game to watch either. It was kind of a boring game, but again, a playoff game. The game of the weekend for us, I feel like everybody in this room was definitely looking forward to this game the most. The Cowboys and 49ers. I'm not even going to recap this game. I'm going to pass this off to Nate, because he is our resident Cowboys fan. He's still wearing the Cowboys jersey, still rocking it. I see no glasses today though. No glasses, no victory shades. No. Yeah, I didn't think. Nate, how do you feel? How do you feel about the boys moving forward?
I just want to start. I'm young. I'm 19 years old. So I was born after 2001. Jared probably that he's born, but he was like what, 1.5, something like that.
I was born in 2000, so I was born after the last Dallas playoff success as well.
No, that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about 2001. September 11th, 2001.
I was 1. I was 1.5. I was 1 in 6 months.
This is the type of level of tragedy that has been going on with the Dallas, America's team, the symbol of America, and you call arguably one of the worst play calls in NFL history. You can say the Colts.
The worst play call in NFL history.
Yes. You can say the Colts one was a bad play call. That ball was never supposed to be snapped. This one was a designed snap ball. Whoever thought of that play, whoever looked at that play and said it was a great idea, everyone on that staff deserves to be fired. That's all you can really do legally within the NFL. But there should be more punishment than just being fired for calling that play.
Banishment.
blackball, like everything that you could possibly do to somebody, you probably should. Mike McCarthy, goodbye. Hello, Sean Payton. Hell, I don't care who we have. Give us Kingsbury. Give us Herm Edwards. We just need somebody else, man. But what it's shaping up to be is the same thing that Dallas does is, oh, we have this backup quarterback. And he's this beloved white guy. He was the third stringer, you know, and he's been our assistant for a long time. We're gonna make him the head coach. He has a creepy smile. We're gonna bring him back in. He's just gonna lead us to mediocrity for like the next 16 years because this guy's like 34 or something. I don't,
I was gonna say Kellen Moore is he's a young dude.
yeah.
And if that does actually happen, I'm so sorry for the Cowboys fans because you guys will go back right into a pool of suck.
That's where you see his Boise State education right there. That whole play call, respectfully, Boise State's that's not it. Like that is a safety school of safety schools. Like you go there to be a farmer or go there to find a farmer wife or something. Like you don't go there for school. You just go there either because you got a football scholarship or you're looking for a farmer wife. That's it. That's the only reason you go to Boise State. You don't go to Boise State for education or nothing. And that's exactly what we saw that last play call. It was a great game. I don't know if the Cowboys were the better team. I think it was. We probably weren't. They had more offensive weapons. They had a great defense, but it was definitely a winnable game. Um, Dak threw some interceptions like that. That's a given. However, I mean, we were right there, and to end like that after you ended last year with Dak running too far and sliding, it just sucks for a Dallas Cowboys fan. And that's really all I'm gonna say about it is the play kind of defined that game. It's just at a certain point, Mike McCarthy got out coached, Kellen Moore got out coached. Um, Actually, anybody could out coach that play. So yeah, that's really all I got to say. Is just the 49ers were a better team. We hung in there a little longer than we should have, and yeah, it just showed where we are right now. And I don't know if we're ever going to be back here for a long time. So
Which kind of a good segue into our first question where I can introduce these new graphics we kind of got. I'm excited to kind of debut these. They're just kind of like make the show look a little more professional, but we'll start with the first question of the episode right now. Can the Cowboys ever make a return to relevancy? And can they make it further than a divisional playoff game? In my opinion, I will start. As long as Jerry Jones and his family not owns the team, but has any type of control, I don't see how it can be done. The clock management for the Cowboys is still an issue. And I think as long as Mike McCarthy's a head coach, it will continue to be an issue. I think that the offense needs some major changes. It needs a major overhaul because at one point Dak was considered a top quarterback in the league. And at this point, people are wondering whether they should actually move on from Dak Prescott. And I don't think that's a good idea. At the beginning of the year, people talked about Cooper Rush and how maybe they should stick with Cooper Rush because they were winning. And I was against it, still against it. But the way Dak has played feels like he's a turnover machine. Feels like he's going to throw as many interceptions as he is touchdowns. So really, he kind of evens out across the board. But it's a real problem. The run game is not great, and Zeke is under contract for at least another 3-4 years with a massive cap hit. Massive. And the most electric player on the team is a backup running back who I'm not sure what his injury was in the playoff game, but it was a significant injury. It's going to hold him out of the Pro Bowl, but I'd assume if you got any minor injury, you're not going to play in the Pro Bowl anyways. And he's set to be a free agent. And he was one of the best offensive players Dallas had. So if they want to retain him, they're going to have to pay him probably 14 I'd probably say north of 10 and somewhere below $15 million a year to keep him around because it's his time to get paid right now. And he's going to have a decent market, I think, even with his injury. I think his injury probably helps the Cowboys in possibly retaining him for a lower price because I think his market will be, it would have been heightened if he doesn't get hurt. Now it's probably going to be held back a little bit. But Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb, best offensive players you have. CeeDee Lamb still on his rookie contract, going to have to be paid at some point as well. And right now they have a lot of money tied up at other positions. By the time CeeDee Lamb's contract is up as well, Zeke will still be probably on the team and still getting paid north of $10 million. And that's a lot of money spent on a running back that didn't. Yeah, he did have a resurgence this year, but how much of that was due to the fact that teams were terrified of Tony Pollard lined up in the slot while CeeDee Lamb was lined up on the other side of the field, possibly in the slot as well. And I think right now with the coaching staff that Dallas has, I think right now with Jerry Jones maybe being too involved in roster movement, I don't see how the Cowboys can ever, in my lifetime, make a championship game and advance past the divisional round. That's my thoughts.
I think you hit a lot of the good points. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think I'm good. You hit a lot of the good points there. Like they need to get a better offense for sure. But here's how they do it. They lower Dak Prescott's pay because he's way overpaid in my opinion. You lower his pay, you get some better players. I think they can. I think they can in the next few years. But they have to get better players. And I don't know what their cap is. I really don't. I haven't looked into that. But I mean, it's right, yeah. So they can't, but if they can get either, as much as I hate Dak, he's not too bad of a QB. He is good enough to win a Super Bowl himself. But he needs better players to help him. And I think if they can lower his pay, they can get better players. I think they could be a winning team. I think so, but they're gonna have to do that. They're gonna. I think Jerry, he's a businessman, right? That's his main goal. So if he figures that out and he does that, I think they can go far. They just have to do that. They have to figure out. They have to get their crap together, and they have to figure that out.
Big thing though that comes with getting there in the business industry is nepotism. That's probably one of the biggest things that you get in that industry. And that's what it's been with Cowboys. Stephen Jones, he's a GM, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of other Jones run other parts of the organization that probably shouldn't or not qualified to run the organization like that. Kellen Moore, he's there because he's been a Cowboy. He got drafted by the Cowboys, and a lot of it is just because of the relationship they had, rather than their actual skill set. Like Jason Garrett should have been fired like 5 years before he was. Like realistically, he should have been fired 5 years before he was, and that's the thing with the Cowboys is that they hold on to people and they think we have this bond with this person, we can't fire him. But at the end of the day, you're the Dallas Cowboys. You still need to give us a product that we can at least enjoy a little bit. I don't know if any GM who's dumb enough to take Zeke. I might even put Zeke in a second round pick. Just take on his salary. We'll give you a second. I mean, Denver was stupid enough to pay Russ. So I mean, we have some options to. I mean, Bill O'Brien sadly no longer GM, so we couldn't sell him anywhere over there. But yeah, that's just the thing. Is just a lot of stuff needs to happen. And Dak, like you said, Dak is a great quarterback. I don't think that a lot of his interceptions were not his fault. Some of them were. The Eagles one, that pick six, that was his fault. You know, like he just threw it right to the guy. I don't get that one. But there's one where he like the Jaguars one where he throws it in his hands. He's dropping down. The receiver bobbles it up, pick six the other way. Dallas loses the game. Dak is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I think he's a franchise QB. And even after the Eagles game, he threw that pick six and he led the team down the field. The next drive, scored a touchdown. Next drive, he scored a touchdown too. So Dak is resilient. Dak's a leader. We just need a better coaching staff. Maybe even a hands coach or something. We just need better people on the staff, better management, better GM. We just need a whole overall of management as a whole. I would say that's probably one of the biggest reasons the Cowboys won't be relevant for a while. So that's what I gotta say.
So according to, and the best tracker for cap space is Spotrac. So according to them, the Cowboys next year, as of right now, have less than $1 million in cap space available. So obviously, free agents aren't going to be able to help. They're going to have to really redo some contracts. Yeah, so it is going to be the same team. Well, same team minus a couple of the key free agents like Tony Pollard and I'd assume some others that are. I mean, there's some big contracts coming up, and as of right now, if you I'll look ahead at 2024 for them. I assume it doesn't get better. Let's take a look here. 2024 cap space. Where are the Cowboys on here? I think they're even. Oh, they're not lower. No one's in bad a shape as the Saints are, but yeah. For 2024, their cap space as of now is 82. So they can probably push some contracts back, even that out, and get themselves maybe good 30 million. But at the same time, like, not going to do a whole lot with that because you got to take into consideration their first round draft pick, probably going to have to take up about $2 to $3 million of that cap space, along with their other draft picks, which could take up another 5 to 6 total. So a lot of question marks for the Cowboys moving forward, which leads me to a question. There's two massive quarterbacks that played this past weekend, and they lost. And their championship window for their teams are not necessarily closed, but they could be. Who would you rather have, Josh Allen or Dak Prescott? Nate, you went last time. You are the Cowboys fan. Right now, Josh Allen or Dak Prescott, how you feeling?
Okay, so I'm trying so hard to do this without bias. I'm human. We have bias, but I want to read off some stats to you this season. So these are regular season stats. These are playoff stats. Dak this season he played 12 games. He threw for like 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Josh Allen he played 4 more games, but he threw significant amount of yards more than Dak. He threw 35 touchdowns. Like he threw a lot more and had 14 interceptions, about pretty close to about the same number. But Dak played 12 games and threw 15. So that doesn't look good. But the real test of, I think, being a great quarterback is your passer rating, being able to give the playmakers on your roster the ball and be able to do it accurately. So Dak during the regular season had 91.1 passer rating. During the playoffs, Dak had a 101.5 passer rating. So Dak actually played and performed better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. So Dak steps it up in the playoffs, at least in this playoffs. He threw 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, both against the 49ers. Both were his fault. I can't excuse those two. Um, but he won one of those games pretty convincingly, and the other one, he kept him in longer than he probably should have been in that game. But the other thing for Allen threw more yards, but he only threw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on an 80.1 passer rating. So I think we talked about this after they lost to the Vikings, is that Josh Allen does not know how to close out games. It doesn't look like he performed in those big moments. And it's not to say that Dak has performed in those big moments, but he has performed at least better than Josh Allen has in those big moments. And that's the reason you pay your quarterback so much money. That's the reason you have the franchise guys, because it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. It matters what you do in the playoffs, when it matters, when the lights are on. And, looking at these stats, I think it just shows that Dak plays when the lights are on and Josh Allen just doesn't. He doesn't perform as well as he did during the regular season when less lights were on him. So if I'm picking one, I'm picking Dak. And if the Bills ever make it to the Super Bowl, it's going to be the Four Falls of Buffalo again. That's my prediction. So I think Micah's next. I guess we're going back around.
Sure.
I mean, I could try to go next after that. That's pretty good stats, actually. Personally, I would go with Josh Allen. I am a Josh Allen guy. I don't know if it's just because I'm being biased and I don't like Dak, but I mean, yeah, Josh Allen, he's very calm when it comes to the plays and stuff like that. So is Dak, though. I mean, you can compare them pretty similarly. It just comes down. I don't know. It's tough. It really is tough. But I'm going with Josh Allen mainly because he's just he's a better runner when it comes to running. He outruns Dak, and you need that for both sides of the ball. And if you had to pick one, I'd pick Josh. Mainly for that reason. He played how many more games? Did you say
4.
4 more games? So that their stats are almost the exact same when it comes to if Dak were to play the other 4 games. As far as that,
Besides interceptions, but
yeah,
interceptions he has more, and he played 4 less games,
yeah,
so I can't
yeah,
excuse those.
yeah. No, yeah. As far as Josh Allen throwing, he'd probably make better decisions throwing. He's a better runner on the side. I'm going with Josh Allen.
It's really just white or black Dak, or white or black Josh Allen. Like that's what it is. Like it's not like they're very much different. It's just pick your race. That's kind of what it is with these two quarterbacks. The stats are pretty much the same. They pretty much perform the same in the playoffs. I mean, it's pretty much the same. It's just who do you want? Who do you want the face of your franchise to be?
Yikes, you're making me rethink my take here because I was definitely leaning towards taking Josh Allen, and it's like you just brought in the race card on me. I don't want to look like a racist, you know. I don't want people to be like, this guy's picking Josh Allen because his buddy said he's racist. Like, to be fair, we are not racist or prejudiced, but I obviously have a side I'm going with as well. I agree with Micah. Josh Allen, part of the reason I'd probably say he has as many interceptions as he has, and why he had the season that he had, and why it seemed disappointing to people is because he is the Bills' entire offense. Their route tree in Buffalo, Patrick Peterson broke it down on his podcast after they played. The Buffalo route tree is very simple. Diggs is the only guy that really runs like a variety of routes. Everybody else you can pretty much pinpoint. So their offense is very basic, and it's a problem that their offense is basic because they have actual skill level, like high skill level players. Stephon Diggs is great. Gabe Davis is really good. I mean, Cole Beasley, they brought him back. He fits the offense amazingly. They had Isaiah McKenzie, like a freak. He's kind of a freak athlete. They had guys, and it's not like they should have been able to do more. But when you consider that they can't run the football, like at all with their running backs, and Allen is the entire offense running the football and passing the football, when teams decide, oh, we're okay with Allen maybe running because we want him to force a ball downfield because he has to throw a bunch of 50-50 balls because every corner has figured out that's a decent corner has figured out the Bills route tree that every receiver runs. I think Allen and Prescott are plagued by the same issues. They have poor offensive coaching. Mike McCarthy is an offensive coach, though. Allen comes from a team that has a defensive head coach. So part of the Allen's problem is he just lost Brian Daboll this past season. Brian Daboll was a guy that helped transform his career and help make him an MVP level player, according to some people. When you have a defensive head coach, you have to hire good offensive coordinators and good offensive staff. Ken Dorsey, in my mind, is good. Joe Brady is average pass game coordinator. He is a college level guy. He's a Matt Canada level guy for the Steelers fans out there that are listening. They know what I mean. He's a guy that should be calling plays on Saturday, and that's about it. I like Josh Allen, but I think both of these guys don't really have a shot at really getting their teams to the promised land at any point. I think the Bills' window is more than likely closed at this point, which brings me to my next question. Can the Bills still win a Super Bowl? I just told you my answer, no. They got a lot of younger guys on the defense. They're going to have to start spending a lot of money. The pass rush is average at best. If Von Miller's not healthy, they can't rush the passer. Allen's contract is about to get to the point where he's getting paid a lot more money. Like, he's under a big contract right now, but I do believe it's his 5th year in the league. So right now he's on his 5th year option. No, he's not on his 5th year option because I think they put this is his 6th year in the league. No, it can't be his 6th year in the league. Is it? Because it's Mahomes' 6th year in the league.
He wasn't drafted with Mahomes. He was drafted after.
He was drafted the year after. That's what I'm saying. He was drafted with Baker and Sam Darnold. So this is his 5th year in the league. Yeah, because Lamar Jackson drafted the same class. He's set to be a free agent. He's on his 5th year option. So next year, Josh Allen's cap hit is massive. Next year. It's a massive cap hit. It's going to take an effect on the team. They're not going to be able to be as active in free agency because I believe this year he's probably making $17 to $20 million, Josh Allen. Next year he'll probably make somewhere in the 40s. So double his cap hit. That's going to take an effect on the team massively. They won't be able to sign guys in free agency like they did this past year, like Von Miller. They won't be able to get improved players. They're going to have to keep drafting really well, which they've done. I mean, Dane Jackson at corner, very good backup corner. DeMar Hamlin, before he got hurt, was a viable safety. Like, those guys were later round draft picks. They performed very well. James Cook, I think he was a 2nd round draft pick. Good find at running back. I think he should be the starter going forward next year. Hire Greg Roman to be your run game coordinator, though. Like, that's what they should do. Greg Roman right now is not a coach anywhere. He can transform a run game. You see what he did with Lamar Jackson. Imagine if he had a quarterback that he's not in charge of the offense. He's just in charge of the run game. He could transform that Bills team, but even if they did that, I don't think they can win one at this point at all. I don't know how you guys feel, but in my mind, their window is closed for that. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I already said it was a 4 falls to Buffalo. It was already coming. So I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. There's just something about this team where I just feel like they're not going to be able to compete at the next level. And even the stats just showed that Josh Allen doesn't step up. You know, it like that. He's white Dak, to use my own analogy. So that's that. I don't think they'll ever be able to make it anytime soon. So 4 falls to Buffalo again. I would say it's sorry, Bills fans, PTSD, but it's going to happen again. I'm sorry. Micah, anything new?
Really not, honestly. I mean, you guys have hit all the points, the main points at least. Is there a chance? I don't know. I mean, you can never say never. I mean, they could come back somehow, some way. You said their cap's really high, so they could get some really good players and maybe come back. But as far as Josh Allen goes, not him. No. So if they keep Josh Allen for the next few years, no, there's no way there's no way within 3, 4, 5 years. I don't think so.
And I'm one of those people that still thinks that Josh Allen is like a upper echelon guy. So for them to not have a Super Bowl window that's like open is kind of concerning because he is one of those. He's in that level of Burrow, Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady. Like,
I think talent wise he is, but I think this as like the player, like talent wise he's there, but he's not. I don't think he's able to do everything that he can do with his talent.
I think if he just had an above average run game, I think that he'd be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's definitely an issue. And I hope they figure that out next year because that Bills team, if they can run the football, they can throw on anybody. They've proven that already. So it'd be intriguing to see whether they get that figured out. They got a long off season. They were supposed to. I mean, the NFL was seemingly wanting them to be. They were the Super Bowl favorites, I do believe, coming into the year. The Bills. And for them to get bounced in a divisional round and not even make the championship game, it's very telling. A lot of people didn't believe in the Bengals at all. Like, they thought the Bengals were a one-year wonder. It was a fluke. I think everybody learned very quickly Joe Burrow is not a fluke. He is that guy. Which brings me to my next question. If you had to build a franchise, a lot of people say that the two best young quarterbacks in the game and the two new faces of the NFL are Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Build a franchise. You get to pick a franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. This is obviously a runaway question. You're going to have a great franchise. But I feel like they both have a different playing style and they bring different things to a team. So I'm intrigued to hear your guys' thoughts. Micah, we will start with you. Who would you take, Joe Burrow to build a franchise with or Patrick Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes. Every single time for me. And mainly because, yeah, they might have similar stats. Yeah, they might be, close to the same player. But it's crazy watching Patrick Mahomes play. It almost like lures people in because he does crazy stuff. When you watch him, you're like, what is he going to do next? That's pretty much, what people see. They're looking for that sidearm that he does. I mean, it's amazing to watch. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. He's going to bring in more people. Joe Burrow, he's a great QB, but he kind of keeps it simple. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I mean, if you're looking for something crazy, which I would, Mahomes.
I'm gonna go the exact opposite. I'm a GM, right? So I'm an owner or I'm a GM. What am I?
You're the GM or owner. It don't matter. You're building a
Actually, good.
franchise.
You know, but like what the money that comes into my franchise determines my paycheck, whether I'm an owner or a GM. Who's gonna sell me more jerseys? Joe Burrow. Like the thing is Patrick Mahomes probably is definitely the more talented quarterback here. Joe Burrow, he can't throw as far as Patrick Mahomes. He can't do the sidearms like Patrick Mahomes. So no look passes. He can't make game announcers down bad like Patrick Mahomes. Collinsworth is just like, look at that play by Mahomes, and he literally threw it into the ground. Like I don't. He has a way with these announcers. Patrick Mahomes just has a way with these announcers that Joe Burrow doesn't. But when I look at Joe Burrow, I see someone that has that dog mentality. Someone asked him, "How long is this championship window going to be?" And he said, "As long as I'm playing, the window is open." Like that's my QB. That's my franchise quarterback. If you have that level of confidence in you, you were not the most talented. You can't run as well as other quarterbacks. You can't throw as well as other quarterbacks. You have a poor offensive line, but you say championship window is open as long as I'm a QB. I trust you with my franchise. I will give you the keys. I will give you the weapons. I will give you everything you need in order to be successful. And so that's why I picked Joe Burrow, just because I think that he, no matter what situation he's in, I think he can lead me to a championship. Patrick Mahomes, as much as he is talented, I look at this as Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. If we're really looking at talent, who's the more talented quarterback? My humble opinion, I think it's Aaron Rodgers. I think he has a slightly bigger arm. I think he could do crazier things than Tom Brady, but Tom Brady was just so great because he had that mentality. Joe Burrow has that mentality. I picked Joe Burrow just because like he's going to be one of the greats because he's going to will himself to be one of the greats. Patrick Mahomes is going to be one of the greats because he's just good enough to be one of the greats. So I'm picking Joe Burrow all day long. But go ahead.
So I'm obviously going to go Burrow. And here's my reasoning as to why. He's got Mamba mentality. It's the dog mentality. He is got that mindset that Prime Brady had. He's going to kill you if he can. And he was able to come in. He didn't do it single-handedly. But before the last year, Zach Taylor had a combined. He was there the year prior as a Bengals coach, and he had, I do believe, 2 wins before Joe Burrow. Joe rookie year got hurt, tore his ACL. Bengals had. Is my sound still on?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
It glitched, but we're good.
I panicked. He had 4 wins in Joe Burrow's rookie year. In 2 years combined, Zach Taylor is being talked about as one of the worst head coaches in the league. And everybody still talks about Zach Taylor as the head coach that got a job Because he had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay. Because he was on Sean McVay's coaching staff. Because he's a young offensive mind. Since last year, the Bengals have 12 wins. I mean, not 12 wins. They had 12 wins this year. They had 10 the year before. 22 wins in 2 seasons. The previous years prior to Burrow showing up in Cincinnati, they were 2-14, 6-10, 7-9, 6-9. Not good football team. Mahomes, before he shows up, they have Alex Smith and their head coach is Andy Reid for quite a few years. They were 12-4, 11-5, 9-7, 11-5. They were a good football team. They were winning games. They were like a good football team, making the playoffs year in and year out. Bengals were not. Bengals were a dumpster fire organization. Bengals didn't have an indoor practice facility until this past year. The opportunity, they're winning games now because of Joe Burrow and his marketability. Because people like Joe Burrow, businesses want to partner with the Bengals. The Bengals as an organization now are making money. Like they're not losing money. They're making, not to saying that they were losing money before. They're a billion-dollar organization because it is the NFL. But they didn't have an indoor practice facility till this year. They now have a bubble. They have a name on their stadium. They have other sponsors. They have clean jerseys. Like the Bengals organization has turned around since Burrow got there. I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, the Chiefs' dominance with Mahomes as a starting quarterback is real. It's a real thing. 5 straight AFC championship games with Mahomes as starter. He's been a starter for 5 seasons. There hasn't been a single season he hasn't made it to the AFC championship game. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He lost to Brady one year. He lost to... Huh?
He has a championship.
He has a championship, but he lost to Brady once in the AFC championship game. I'm trying to think of it. Lost to Brady again. Didn't have to play Brady. And then
Lost to the Bengals?
Nah, what was that? Which one? He beat Brady. Who did they beat in the Super Bowl the year they went to the Super Bowl?
49ers.
They beat the 40. Oh, yeah, you're right. They beat the 49ers. So he lost to Brady, didn't have to play Brady. Then when he finally faces Brady again in the Super Bowl the next year, he loses. So Brady's obviously Mahomes' kryptonite. Then he has to play Joe Burrow. And now this year he has to play Joe Burrow. Listen, I think my opinion, Joe Burrow's story a little different than Tom Brady. But, I mean, massively different. He's a number 1 overall draft pick. People forget, though, and this is, I think, a big factor that isn't going to get talked about enough. He's an Ohio guy. Like, he's built different. It's in his blood to be a different dude because he's from Ohio. Like, Burrow's he's a game changer. He's fantastic, and I love him, and I'd build a franchise around him 10 out of 10 times. Now, Mahomes is great. I wonder without Andy Reid how good Mahomes would be. That's a hot take. Personally, I know that's a hot take, but,
Give him Mike McCarthy, he's going to suck. But give him anyone else, he's going to be okay.
I wonder if you switch the two, how it would look. If you put Mahomes in Burrow's situation and Burrow in Mahomes' situation, what it would look like. Burrow is going to be successful with Andy Reid. Is Mahomes going to be successful with Zach Taylor? I do not know. And do they have Jamar Chase if Mahomes is in Cincinnati? Probably not. Mahomes might already be dead because their offensive line was so bad before Burrow got there. And it's still not great. But with that being said,
he broke his ACL. Like, we forgot about this first season. He broke his ACL.
Yeah.
Came back, went to a Super Bowl. Like,
yeah, exploded. It was a terrible injury. Like, and he's that dude. Like, Burrow is that dude. He's different level. But with that being said, we'll move on. And to some other NFL news. Bill O'Brien was rehired by the New England Patriots to be their new offensive coordinator. They relieved Matt Patricia. He spent the previous 2 years at Alabama. He was previously the head coach of Houston Texans, and then he became the GM, and things went downhill, and then he kind of spiraled and lost control of himself, I think, a little bit. Bill O'Brien was too much for himself to handle at GM and head coach. I think that's a tough balance, and I think there's very few that can do that. Belichick is one of the only ones in the NFL that currently do it. I think it'll stay that way for a long time. I think it's at the level the NFL is now. I don't think you can be a head coach and deal with these guys in the locker room and then have to tell them 2 weeks later when you're negotiating a contract with them that they suck, when you're trying to tell them that they're good when you're coaching them. Bill O'Brien couldn't do that. I think he'll be a definite improvement in offensive coordinator. The Patriots should see improvement. Saquon Barkley said that he isn't looking to break the bank with his new contract. I think this was smart of him to say because he's aware that he's had an injury history, but he knows he's a good running back. He also, by saying this, he's going to take open to a team-friendly discount, but not too much of a team-friendly discount. The Giants already have put it out there, and they're not going to say they put it out there, but it's already been put out there that he denied a $12 million a year pay. Yeah, that's not breaking the bank, but other running backs get way more than $12 million a year. I think you're going to have to up that to north of 15 to keep Saquon around. And I don't know if the Giants just don't have the money to do so if they want to re-sign Daniel Jones as well. So I don't know what the Giants are going to do because they're in salary cap hell, but they need to bring back both of those players if they want to continue to be successful. Shannon Sharp this past weekend was in a brawl with the Grizzlies. He then apologized on air on his Skip and Shannon Undisputed. And the apology, who cares? The funniest part is, before the podcast, Nate told me the Grizzlies are 0-3 since that.
That is correct. And by the way, they're all against the Western Conference teams. So John Morant saying, "Nah, I'm fine in the West." You lost to the G League Lakers. The G League Suns. You lost to the Lakers, and then you lost to the Sacramento Kings. Like you ain't fine in the West, my boy. Like, so it's aging like fine wine, or you know what I mean. For us, it's aging like fine wine. For them, it sucks. But yeah, no, I'm very excited. I am here for the Grizzlies' downfall. Really, really, really here for it.
I'm sure Shannon is also excited that they've been losing games since he got into this brawl because it probably makes him look even smarter somehow. He's been in hot water with Skip and that, and I wonder personally how much longer Undisputed will go on, but that's a different conversation for a different day. The last thing that I'd like to hit on before we bounce out of here is Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Both quarterbacks that we've all watched our entire life. Both possibly might retire this year, possibly might come back. Tom Brady was actually asked about this on his Let's Go podcast, and he had a hilarious answer. And we'll play that for you right now.
Tom, you're leaving everybody guessing. You said you'll take your time. Do you have any type of a timetable as to what you might want to do regarding your football career?
Jim, if I knew what I was going to fucking do, I'd have already fucking done it. Okay? I'm taking it a day at a time.
This was like the only clip that anybody I think has ever seen from that podcast. It's a real marketing issue.
I've never heard of that podcast before in my life. This is the first time I've ever heard of this podcast.
Exactly. And this is like a legendary quarterback. He's considered the GOAT by many, and myself included. How do people not know that every single week there's a conversation with him and, I mean, Jim Gray's a legend, but that podcast is unbearable to listen to because every question is sponsored. So, and he's an older dude. I mean, he asked a question that had to be asked. And honestly, that clip makes me like Brady a little bit more because that's Brady finally showing that he is maybe a little bit human. And I'm sure he heard similar things like that from his wife last year, which is maybe what led to some fights, led to the ultimate divorce. then, PTSD pops in his head and he has to just lose his mind for a second. And then he realizes he's not talking to Giselle. He's talking to Jim Gray on a recorded podcast. And millions of people are going to hear this audio clip now. And he downplays it afterwards. And he's like, I'm just playing with you. But like at the same time, like that didn't sound like he was playing with him. He sounded kind of mad that he even got asked the question. And I'll be honest, Brady's been in this game in the NFL long. He's been in the NFL longer than he's spent not in the NFL in his life at this point. I think he's been allotted the time to take as much time as he needs to decide whether he wants to play or not. Because maybe some would say last year he rushed it, his decision to retire, and then unretire, and then which ultimately led to all the other drama with Giselle that I just mentioned. And you have to take that into consideration when you talk about it because it is all public knowledge at this point because it was a bad divorce. And it was a bad look for him. Aaron Rodgers, though, at the same time, he's going through the same thing. He was talked about he was on the Pat McAfee show today, and I played the audio clip, but it's got more F words than I can count. Shout out Pat for cursing all the time. But I enjoy his show. And he was talking to Rodgers, and he asked Rodgers what's going to, if he does come back, what's going to have to happen differently. And Rodgers said the money that he's going to get paid is definitely going to have to be different, obviously hinting that he'd have to take a pay grade if he wanted to come back to the Packers. Just because he would obviously want other guys to return as well, like Randall Cobb and some other players as well, like maybe bring back Allen Lazard if they could. And yeah, be interesting to see what happens with the two of them. Do you guys have any thoughts on Brady or Rodgers or anything like that?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on Rodgers. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to watch Rodgers out there nowadays. Watching him this past season has just been like watching an old grandpa out on the field. He just gets mad at everybody and everything. It's just hard not to laugh at, honestly. So for him to come back next season, I mean, it's just gonna make it more fun.
I think that was Tom Brady. I don't. I think you were talking about the wrong quarterback.
Nah, Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
They both kind of were. In their own little way, they both.
Aaron, if you watched a game with Aaron Rodgers over this last season, during the season, it's every single play almost he'd be yelling at somebody. I mean, the camera would zoom in and he's yelling at somebody. It was funny. So I love him, but yeah.
Do you guys ever notice when you watch a game that he's playing, they zoom in on his face more than they zoom in on any quarterback ever? Yeah. The amount of times they zoom in on Aaron Rodgers' face when he's playing, I'd assume if you counted it compared to other quarterbacks, it's triple.
Well, he has a meme-worthy face. He's on at least 4 memes already, and you also want to catch him in the act, just his eyes just going while I mean, we've already heard he's already said LSD, whatever he's taking during games, and so you just want to see his eyes flickering or whatever. He has a very memeable face at the end of the day. So that makes sense for the most part. But yeah, they do. That's crazy though. I didn't notice that they zoomed in his face like that.
I notice it every time I watch one of the games. It's I get kind of annoyed because I'm it's after every single play he's on the field. It's zooming on Rodgers, just close up on his face. It's do we need this every single time? I'm a Rodgers guy, and I'm we don't need this. It's kind of unnecessary. But with that being said, it's pretty much all we have to talk about today. I'm not going to drag this out any longer than it needs to be. We said we'd try to wrap it up at 45 minutes. It's gone 58, but we tried our best. The questions were a little bit longer than I think we all expected our answers to be on that, but it's all good. It was a good conversation. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoy the games this weekend. The Bengals and Chiefs. Bengals are favored by 1.5. My pick is the Bengals, and the Eagles are favored by 2.5. My pick is the Eagles to cover that one because 2.5. If it was 3.5, I'd say the 49ers would cover, but my pick is the Eagles to cover. And if they cover, they win. So obviously Eagles to win. Bengals to win, Eagles to win. Book it. Bengals winning Super Bowl. Excited to see that happen in 3 weeks. With that being said, though, see you guys. Peace. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. We're out of here.